What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Bulls of Ball Street, where we break down every UFC card each week. Last week was a banger of a card, UFC Rio. We're moving right into a card with a main event that's very, very important for the rankings in Renier Derrider versus Brendan Allen. It was originally supposed to be Renier versus Fluffy. Fluffy pulled out of that, so here we are. Still a great card. A bunch of fun fights. Let's get on into it.
All right, let's get rolling.
And this one's going to be a bit shorter because, as far as we know, we're without our man Grant. But yeah,
All right. Melissa Croden versus Tainara Lisboa. What should we be expecting here?
yeah, you can tell obviously by the picture, Croden is a UFC debut. Does not have that official photo yet, but she is a very good fighter. Tainara Lisboa, also pretty good Muay Thai style striker, coming off her first UFC loss. Um, Croden is, like I said, a striker, kind of Muay Thai based. She's been doing martial arts pretty much her whole life. Believe Muay Thai has done some other stuff like some other martial arts, I'm sure, too, when she was younger, but moved into Muay Thai, eventually into MMA. And, she has pretty good head movement, good movement on the feet. She's good striking defense, also very powerful, throws hard, stays clean on the feet, very tough. Definitely could use some grappling improvement. But generally speaking, she is very dangerous. Lisboa, another striker, she also moves pretty well. I'd say maybe a little bit more powerful than Croden, but I'd say less technical of a striker. She throws bigger, a little bit looser, heavy knees and elbows. Not the best takedown defense ever. I don't know how much that's going to come into play, though, in this fight. Um, but if she does get taken down, she's pretty much instantly looking to get a submission off her back. Pretty good grappling. Definitely the better grappler of the two, I would say. And she's coming off a Luana Santos decision loss where she just got taken down and got beat that way. I think not super passionate about either side of this, but I think Melissa, from what I've seen, is the better striker and by a decent bit. I don't think she necessarily is going to need to worry about like the takedown threat from Tainara. Haven't seen a ton of evidence of Melissa's takedown defense, but Tainara does not have the cleanest takedowns ever. And I don't think she's really going to be too much of a threat for Melissa on the feet. She's very composed and technical, manages range well, also powerful. So I am going to go with Melissa Croden here.
Let's see here. And you said it was her debut?
Yeah.
All right. Process Tainara Lisboa it is by decision.
Yeah.
All right. On to
Knew
the
that
next.
was coming.
I mean, you know me enough at this point. Like, it's just, I will kick myself if I just don't do it that way now.
Yeah.
Azamat Pekoa versus Yusri Belgori. Yeah, I definitely screwed that up. But yeah, let's walk through it.
Now you got that. I think it's Bakoyev, not Bekoev, but you got Belguri. But yeah, Bakoyev, he is on a long win streak. I believe it's 8 fights. Yusri on his own little 3-fight win streak as well. I think this is going to be a really fun fight, and I'm surprised it's this low on the card. This was supposed to happen a month ago or 2 months ago. About Yusri was having visa issues, so now the fight's taking place obviously in Canada. Bakoyev seems to be a pretty well-rounded guy, has good takedown defense, solid BJJ, not insanely fast or technical, but very, very powerful, throws with intent, wrestles with intent, grapples with intent. Very small for this weight class, I would say, especially compared to a guy like Yusri Belguri, who's 6'5". But he makes up for that with, constantly staying in your face, closing the distance against fighters who are a bit longer than him. And he knocked out Ryan Loder in his last fight. Yusri Belguri was a kickboxer that transitioned into MMA, super long at 6'5", does what you would expect a competent kickboxer to do, uses kicks tactically, manages range, pretty heavy hands. And his combos look really sharp when he's not worrying about wrestling on the other side, which he will have to worry about here. So he might be a little bit hesitant at times if Bakoyev can threaten those takedowns enough, but he is a very good kickboxer. Obviously, physical specimen, especially for someone with a kickboxing arsenal. Grappling gap is somewhat wide, I would say. I think Bakoyev can definitely exploit Usry on the ground if it gets there. I am kind of worried about him getting it to the ground, though, with that 33% takedown accuracy, because I do think Usry absolutely dominates Bakoyev on the feet. Azamat, like his last actual knockout was in the LFA. Usry is a very, very good striker. So this one's tough for me. I'm not betting Bakoyev, 100% not betting Bakoyev. Part of me kind of wants to bet Usry, but I'm going to pick Bakoyev like tentatively just because of the wrestling edge. And I think if it does go down, Usry is going to have a really tough time staying in it with Azamat, whose ground and pound is just so nasty. But if he can't get the takedowns, I think Usry's knocking him out. So if anything, I'm probably going to take like a Belguri knockout prop, but the pick is Bakoyev.
Yeah, I'll go with Bakoyev by decision here. Like in one sense, I just want to be like, oh, he's going to continue like getting finishes, but I don't know. I think this Usry guy could potentially challenge him at least a little bit.
Yeah, and it's like you look at Azamat's level of Azamat's level of competition. It's like it's Dylan Budka, it's Zach Reese. It's like, ugh.
It's like how much different is Usry from those guys? We really don't know. For all we know, he's actually much better than them.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, we'll find out this weekend. So on to the next one. We got Stephanie Luciano versus Ravina Oliveira. Yeah, I'm assuming this isn't a relative to Alex Pereira, right?
No, I don't think so. I think just another Brazilian. But yeah, this one interesting. Ravina coming off a decently long layoff here, 2-year layoff because of her knee injury. I think her last fight was her decision loss in her UFC debut. She is a pressure-oriented fighter, 100% finish rate, tons of volume. I wouldn't say she has like real knockout power if you watch her fights, despite that 100% finish rate. They're not like insane or anything. But she's pretty well rounded. She can work in a takedown, averages to a fight. But I do think Stephanie should just be a little bit better everywhere. And then there's the layoff that comes into play too. Luciano has really, really good control on top. So if she gets the takedowns, she should be able to just keep Ravina on the ground. She's also a pretty busy striker. You'll see she lands 5.36 significant strikes a minute, absorbs 3.38. So she definitely can hang in the striking department as well. In the Sam Hughes loss, she just suffered. She just couldn't really get off her back when Sam Hughes got her down. But the striking looked good. The volume was there. And I think she can look good here against Ravina. She looked pretty good, honestly, I think, against Sam Hughes in the striking department. And I think she has an edge in the wrestling as well. I think if Ravina gets on her back, it's going to be pretty hard for her to get up. So I'm going to go with Steph.
Yeah, I'm not going to vary it off what you're saying here. I'm also going to rock with Luciano by decision. Just that much time away from the sport doesn't always bode well for you.
Yeah, it's also a classic system player right there.
Exactly. All right, on to the next one. Kyle Prepolek versus Drew Dober. I feel like it's been a while since we've brought up Drew Dober.
I know. Yeah, Dober has had it pretty rough recently. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. You might remember Kyle Prepolek from his UFC debut, or actually it wasn't his UFC debut. He was like in the UFC a while ago and then went back to regional after getting cut. But he just lost to BSD on short notice. Drew Dober, yeah, just on a losing streak. Prepolek, like I said, came into the UFC a while back, got another shot against BSD, who is like obviously a tough return fight. BSD is no bum. He is looking to grapple, I would say. I'd say that's generally his path to victory. He has power in his hands, but it's pretty loose and wild, not the most technical or clean striking in the world. Takedowns are decent. not the most dangerous guy in the world, I would say, just kind of a grinder. Drew Dober, obviously an iron chin that seems to kind of be slipping away from him a little bit recently. But he is a competent striker. Obviously, he pays to play. He lands 4.36 strikes a minute, absorbs 4.33. And, historically, he's been able to lean on that chin, which is why he's totally okay with taking damage. Has some technical striking skills, kind of just throws hard these days, though. Absorbs a ton of damage, like I said. He is coming off the KO loss to Manuel Torres. And yeah, I mean, Drew Dober is likely going to get cut here if he loses to Prepolek. He's been looking pretty bad recently. I don't think Prepolek is very good at all, really. So Dober has something to prove. He should be able to get this win. And, I 100% think he deserves to be cut if he can't beat Prepolek. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, I don't understand why Dober's a minus 600 favorite. That seems a bit egregious. But I will say he gets it done by decision just because, like, he's not worth this minus 600 price tag by any means.
Not at all.
All right, on to the next one here. We got Danny Barlow versus Jordan Santos. What should we be expecting here?
Yeah, this should be a fun fight. Barlow has been looking pretty good recently. He's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Jordan Santos looking for his first ever UFC win. And Danny Barlow is a striker, very good range management. He is powerful, but he's looking to kind of piece you up from range most of the time. He has a nasty left hand. Comes into the pocket sometimes with some hooks, some uppercuts, but generally looking to just lunge in when he sees an opportunity, keep range. He usually does a pretty good job of it. Composed, powerful guy. He has kicks in his arsenal as well. Definitely can get pressure. He looks a lot worse on the back foot than he does on the front. Kind of just retreats. He'll shoot a takedown prematurely, even if he doesn't really have the right angle. Sometimes if he's getting pressured on the feet, or feels like he's losing on the feet, but he has some decent BJJ. Just got knocked out by Sam Patterson. Very, very skinny, tall man. And Jordan Santos is a pretty well-rounded guy. Very, very, very high output. You'll see UFC stats, 7.2 strikes landed to 5.87 absorbed. Decent wrestling. Has good takedown defense, I'd say a lot better than his wrestling offense. It sits at 86%. So he's a pretty hard guy to take down. He lost to Ozzy Diaz in his last fight, but he looked decent. He landed 131 significant strikes against him in that loss. Super, super high output guy. And Jordan, when I checked last, Wells, correct me if it's like moved or anything. It's been a day or so, but Jordan was a big dog in this one.
Yes,
okay, cool. Yeah, so I'm going to go with Jordan. I really liked the volume I saw in the last fight. Barlow's coming up in weight, so he should be a little bit slower. And like I said, he does not respond well to pressure. And Jordan Santos is just all pressure, all output, 131 significant strikes in that Ozzy Diaz loss. And Ozzy, I rate kind of highly, or more highly than other people do. Like, he's not that bad. I think Santos is a little bit better than people are giving him credit for. He throws in combos, super, super fast jabs. So I'm going to go with the dog, Jordan Santos, here.
Yeah, I'm just going to go with Barlow by decision. I just can't really get a lean on what side of this fight I honestly like more. I'm just going to take the more fights in theory and see where we ride to. So, on to the next one. Bruno Silva versus Hyun-Sung Park. What should we expect between these two gentlemen?
Yes, we have Brazilian Bruno Silva taking on Korean Hyun-Sung Park. Bruno on an unfortunate 2-fight loss streak. Park coming off his first career UFC loss. And Bruno has been fighting some really high-level competition lately. He lost to Manel Kopp and Josh Van, who we obviously rate super high. And he's a very well-rounded guy, powerful striker, nasty BJJ. Just good everywhere. Wrestling is clean, averages 1.79 takedowns a fight. Definitely likes a brawl. He can knock out pretty much anybody in the division. And then Hyung Sung Park, more of a grappler, does a good job of coming forward, piecing you up a little bit. Shots are there to set up a takedown. Averages 1.6 a fight. Very, very dangerous grappler. Good in scrambles. Pretty composed on the feet, despite that not being his like main path to victory. Can definitely hit hard, find openings, surprise you on the feet when he wants to. Um, I just think Bruno is kind of more dangerous everywhere. Park has not really like he lost to Tatsuro Taira, which is obviously a very high level loss, and I know I was rating Bruno's losses very highly, but he also, unlike Bruno Silva, hasn't really beaten anybody of note. It's hard to say how good he is. Bruno has kind of just been, up and down against pretty solid competition consistently. I think, yeah, I mean, as long as Bruno can stay composed after coming off 2 losses in a row, I think he's a super live dog here. Park is, I just don't think on the same level. Like, he's gotten dropped by regional fighters and on the Asian scene, which is like just a MMA scene we don't trust too much in general. So I'm going to go with Bruno.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of another spot that I'm not really sold on either side, to be honest. They're just kind of like bleh players once again. And I'm just going to keep riding with the odds here and kind of see where it takes me. I'm just going to go with him by decision. I agree with you in the sense of like he's probably going to get rocked, but I think we're going to get more exciting fights as we get further down the card, more than likely.
Yeah.
All right. And this is where I'm excited. Charles Jourdain versus Davy Grant. What should we expect in here?
Davy Grant. Yeah, the salamander. This should be an interesting fight for sure. Jourdain coming off the submission over Victor Henry. Davy Grant, 40 years old, but been on an absolute tear recently. 2-fight win streak. I believe he's 4-1 in his last 5 with some weird decisions. So he's looked good despite the age. Charles used to be extremely electric. They called him Charles Air Jourdain. They still do, but he kind of doesn't necessarily do all the spinning, flying attacks he became known for early. He still has that in his arsenal. But just I would say he doesn't put as much emphasis into making fights wars anymore. He's a little bit more composed, for better or worse. He was definitely, I think, losing that Victor Henry fight before he found the guillotine in the second. He got taken down 4 times ahead of that. Davy Grant, good striker, high volume, 5.18 strikes landed per minute to 3.74 absorbed. Been around for a while, 14 UFC fights, good fight IQ. Has multiple wins as big dogs, as a big underdog, most recently against Damon Blackshear. Just was able to get it done. Jourdain also has been a dog and won before, but he's tough. He's definitely not a quitter. Like I said, not really the same wild fighter he was before. Like he just started getting some harder matchups. Davy Grant is old. I think he can still get it done though. He's a nonstop striker. The volume is still completely there. He's more pressure oriented of the two, I think, at this point in their careers. And it's just Jourdain has kind of just been fizzling out for a long time now. His wins are against absolute nobodies. It's like Kron Gracie, Lando Venata. It's like just absolute random. So I'm going to go with the third dog in a row that I'm picking in Davy Grant.
You want to cook here, Grant, or you want to get caught up for a sec?
I like Davy Grant as well. I think I'm pulling up odds on this one, but I think that is probably where I'm going to stand as well. The first thing I had to say was just shout out Charles Oliveira. GOAT still on top.
Facts.
After last week, just the intro that I had to make before we continue.
Love it, dude.
I like it.
The Bronx.
Bronx. All right. Yeah, I'm also on the David Grant side. Let's go with a knockout. I think we're going to get just absolute fireworks out of this matchup. Air Jourdain is like part of his name is he's just very reckless. And David Grant kind of thrives in those fires. I mean, just look at him. Tell me that man shouldn't be on Peaky Blinders. Anyways,
That's facts.
on to the next one. Kyle Nelson versus Matt Steamroller Favola. Yeah, let's walk through this. Memory lane for Jackson.
Yeah, yep. Went to the Bat Frivola meet and greet back in the day. He's a very, very cool guy. But yeah, this should be a fun fight. Doesn't really matter for the rankings or anything, but Kyle Nelson is coming off a year-long layoff. Frivola, 2 losses now in a row. Both of these guys are kind of dogs, like prefer a brawl. Kyle Nelson, very, very powerful striker, good takedown defense at 73%. Good in scrambles as well, very slippery if he gets taken down. And he is coming off the Steve Garcia knockout loss, where he just got knocked out pretty much instantly, landed only a single significant strike before getting put out. And the steamroller, Matt Frivola, has the same sort of knockout power that Kyle Nelson has. I'd say he might even be more aggressive than Kyle Nelson is on the feet, earning him that nickname, the steamroller. Definitely will also get sloppy in the same way that Kyle Nelson does. You'll see he absorbs slightly more strikes than he lands. He definitely pays to play, but he also mixes in the wrestling, I would say, a good bit more than Kyle Nelson does. He averages 2.39 takedowns a fight. Coming off a Perez Ziam loss where he came out hot, looked pretty good, had a good takedown, straight takedown, and then a pretty close guillotine attempt, and then just ate a giant knee from Perez Ziam. Frivola definitely gets hit hard, but I do think he's just a little bit better all around. Like, I trust him to hang with Kyle in the striking department, and he brings danger of his own. He's the better wrestler of the two. I don't think this fight goes the distance. I think either way, one of these guys is finishing each other, but I'm going to lean Frivola.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's set up for Frivola to get back in the win column here after 2 tough losses, both against superior opponents than Kyle Nelson. So it feels like an opportunity to kind of return to himself and find his way in the rankings again after 2 losses against like real competitors in the division. I feel like Frivola can be a tad chinny, but that also was just kind of more clear during his last 2 fights against skilled fighters. But those both ended by knockout. But I do think that he's probably the more skilled fighter all around in pretty much all areas here. It would just be the one worry that he takes the sort of fight to Kyle Nelson that Kyle Nelson's content with having and lands a couple big strikes, and then you see a knockout. Yeah, agree. I'd be shocked if this one went all 3 rounds, but I'm going to trust Frivola to make a little comeback here.
Yeah, I'm also on the Frivola by knockout side here. Just seems like an absolute nuclear.
Yeah, dude, the UFC freaking loves Frivola too. If you go look at his like last multiple fights for like forever, they put him on like every single numbered card. It's crazy. So I like that narrative, granted, the UFC trying to like get Frivola kind of back in the fold.
Yeah, I was shocked that the line was as close as it was. I feel like he could easily be a little bit bigger of a favorite.
Yeah.
All right, on to the next one. We got Cody Gibson versus Our Chi Lung. Yeah, what should we expect in here? I feel like Cody Gibson's kind of an interesting player over time.
Yeah, he's been around for a very long time, TUF winner. Interviewed Cody Gibson last week on my other channel, MMA Chit Chat, so some clips coming from them. Some fun insight from him, including he seemed very dead set on the fact, like, I tried to mention how he is probably the better wrestler of the two, better grappler, and he kind of just like pushed that aside and was like, I'm going for the bonus. So we'll see how well-rounded of a fight Cody brings us. Normally we can expect him to be a very well-rounded guy, but kind of worried for him if he just tries to stand and bang with Auri Quilang as a pretty composed striker, and just tries to go for that 50K bonus. But, you know, generally just skill-wise, relatively good takedown defense, gets a bunch of his own takedowns, 14 UFC takedowns, coming off a submission loss to Damon Blackshear. Not amazing off of his back. If you take him down, he can definitely get stuck there. He was looking good against Blackshear before the sub. I'd say he won that first round. Actually, he did win that first round. But it just didn't go his way. Got stubbed in the second. Ari Quilang, in my opinion, I'd say he's a very aggressive fighter. He can be technical, but he's pretty wild. Totally cool with the brawl. Mostly a striker. He does have 7 UFC takedowns. He was most recently beat by Raul Rosas Jr. via decision. Got taken down 3 times in that fight. I think this should be a really fun one, obviously based on what Cody was saying about, trying to be a gamer in this one, highlight reel fighting. He is 38 at this point, but I would say he has a few more ways to win than Auri just because he can sneak in those takedowns. Auri Quilang has also been chinned, and Cody is pretty powerful, even if he does decide in bang. I just don't like that I'm not super confident about what Cody Gibson's game plan is going to be going into this one. Auri's not really just absolutely flatlining people or anything. But yeah, I mean, Cody, I'm going to pick Cody because he has all the tools to just pressure Auri, take him down and win, but who knows?
Yeah, I would assume the game plan is to kind of target some takedown defense there. I feel like in the only fight I've seen of Ari Quilang that the takedown defense could be a tad sketchy at times, so that's probably where I'll find an edge here on the Cody Gibson side of things. Definitely a weird fight to be on the main card of this situation. I feel like the Davey Grant one could have been a potentially more awe-inspiring fight, but I feel like Gibson's just a tad more consistent. I mean, he's older, but I feel like he's put together more memorable performances against guys that I feel like are more important barometer for someone's talent than some of the guys that Ari Quilang has beaten recently. Don't feel insanely confident in either side of this. It might be a pass by the time the fight comes around, but for now, I'll rock with Gibson.
Yeah, I kind of want to just go with Gibson by sub. I'm not going to lie.
I like it.
Just seems like that's kind of where this fight will trend. I mean, the only things that stick out to me specifically is you go to the decision to Raul Rosas. That's not bad. And then no contest for Daniel Marcos is definitely interesting as well. But the fight was lined this way for a reason. All right, on to the next one. We have Manon Fiorot versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. What should we be expecting between these two contenders?
Yeah, very, very fun ladies fight here. Both very good fighters. Manon, so close to becoming a champion, coming off a title loss to Valentina Shevchenko. Otherwise, she won 4 fights in a row before that. Jasmine coming off a finish win over former champion Jessica Andrade, and this should be a really good fight. Kind of a clash of styles here. Manon is more of a striker, Jasmine more into the wrestling side of things. But Manon Fiorot, very powerful. I wouldn't say very powerful, but she is powerful. Definitely big for the weight class. Very, very high fight IQ. Not trying to take it to the ground, but if it does go there, she's very slippery, hard to keep her down. She will every once in a while work on a takedown, especially recently. She did that against Shevchenko, but mostly just a good striker looking to keep the fight on the feet. I think especially against a fighter like Jasmine Jasudavicius, who is, just a high-pressure wrestler. She'll definitely engage in the striking, not uncomfortable by any means, but it's pretty much there to set up the takedowns. She ultimately, every fight is going to be looking to get it to the ground, where she's very strong, great sprawl, good hips, sharp and scrambles, just like Manon is. Striking, like I said, not the best ever, but she's very tough. She has some technicality behind her boxing. A grinder for sure, just absolutely dominated Jessica Andrade. I like Jasmine a lot. I just think this is a tough matchup for her because of how big Manon Fiorot is. She's just going to be so hard to take down. And if Jazzy can't take her down, then Manon is the much, much better striker than her. So I'm going to go with Manon by decision just because she's so hard to push around and get to the ground, and she's so smart. And I just don't see this one I don't see a finish here because both these ladies are just so tough. So
Yeah, I'm gonna take Manon as well for a lot of the same reasons. I think against Shevchenko, she did a pretty good job of keeping the fight standing. Just there were a couple times where the takedown defense didn't quite hold up, and she had to do some sprawling on her back and things like that. But I think in general, I was impressed with how it held up, and that Jasmine is not the same level of wrestler, I don't think. Minus 225 may feel a tad steep, so might target some method of victory line or something like that as we get a little bit closer. But I definitely like Manon to get her way back into the win column. Definitely a fun fighter in this division. I think it would be a good thing if she were to win the belt, just because she's more apt to be on the front foot a little bit and striking and things like that, which are not the most common in this division nowadays. So I think that would be a great thing.
Yeah. As much as I'm excited about Jasmine Jasudavicius, it's just going to be fanned by a strong decision, I would imagine. Not going to say it'll be a finish, but very confident in Fannin here. I'm not Fannin, Fioro. Thinking about sport there.
Yeah, Harold Fannin.
On to the next one. Well, very confident about him specifically. But yeah, Marlon Vera versus Ayman Zahabi. Yeah, what should we expect here?
Yeah, we got a fun one here. Chito Vera, obviously we know, chin of steel, got knocked down, I think, for the first time in his most recent fight. 2 losses in a row. Ayman Zahabi, 5-0 in his last 5. Chito, super tough, Muay Thai base, one of the best chins of all time, perhaps the best chin of all time. Deep bag of tricks on the feet, can be a slow starter. He loses first rounds a lot of the time, but very powerful. Sharp knees and elbows in the clinch. Definitely has jiu-jitsu as well, has sub people, decent scrambles. Coming off the Sean O'Malley loss. Coming off the Figueiredo loss and the O'Malley loss. Those were his 2 recent losses. The O'Malley fight was a title fight. Davison, who just won last weekend, was the one who knocked him down for the first time in his career. And Ayman Zahabi, I'd say a pretty technical fighter, puts everything together well, very good training, brother of Faraz Zahabi, who was George St. Pierre's coach, coming off the Jose Aldo win, where he almost got slept by a head kick from Aldo, but somehow survived it. I don't even know how he did. He got absolutely wobbled, but just showed a ton of toughness, surviving that. Jose Aldo basically death gassed, and then Zahabi landed like 40 strikes on him after getting wobbled and just won a pretty confident decision. Marlon is super, super tough. He is just really low volume, especially these days. Like, I don't trust his sense of urgency. Zahabi is an absolute killer, and we saw that in the Aldo fight, where he basically got knocked out. He got flash knocked out pretty much, and then he just came back, applied even more volume than he was applying before he took that head kick. And I think that type of mindset is important against a guy like Chito Vera, who kind of just lets it come to him at times. Both are super, super durable. Chito's obviously more durable despite just getting knocked out, but I think Zahabi is powerful enough. I think just like speed, athleticism wise, like mindset wise, he can turn it up a notch higher than Marlon can in terms of intensity. So I'm going to go with Ayman Zahabi.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Chito here, I think. Feels like a fight where Zahabi is kind of constantly at like a 50 out of 100, and Marlon Vera goes through swings where he's at 0 and swings where he's on 100. And in some of those situations, I mean, he obviously starts slow in fights and could easily drop round 1 in this, and it's only a 3-round fight. But I like his odds to kind of grow into this one and take round 2, and then from there, you have a guy with immense power who's not going to go down, and kind of a war in round 3. Add an underdog as well. I feel like I like Marlon's odds there. And I also think that if this fight ends in a finish, it's going to be by Vera as well. So you kind of have multiple ways this game plan can play out. If he somehow wins game one, or round one, then I think you're in the clear. But he's definitely a guy that starts out slow a ton throughout his career. So you're going to have to live with that and then hope he can pick up 2 rounds after that. But at an underdog price here, I feel like that's probably going to be my lean. I don't trust Zahabi as a favorite. He just hasn't shown enough like elite performance. More just a guy that is super gritty and can get the job done, but isn't like showing any elite technique necessarily.
Yeah, I'm also on the Cheeto side. He just shouldn't be a dog here. Give me him by knockout. All right.
Cheeto should be like a
Wells, we're so screwed.
plus 200 dog, dude. I would maybe take Cheeto as like a plus 250 dog, but I
no
digress.
way he'd be plus 250.
Well,
Dude, he's looked ass recently.
well,
I mean, against like Davison and O'Malley or something.
let's
Yeah,
say
it's
2 of the better fighters in the sport.
better competition.
Dude, Zahabi is like the best training perhaps of like any fighter in the entire sport. His brother is Faraz Zahabi, GSP's coach.
The best part about
And
this,
5-0.
Yeah, I mean, he's pushing 40.
all right, we got Kevin Holland versus Mike Mount. Honestly, I'm very curious to hear where you guys are at in this fight because I really don't know how I'm going to lean. So want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting one just because Kevin Holland is the type of guy who can pull it out whenever he wants to or stink it up whenever he wants to. It kind of just depends. He's coming off a decision loss to senior citizen Daniel Rodriguez. Mike Malott riding back-to-back wins here. And Kevin has pretty much been the same fighter for like a decade now. Very, very accurate technical striker, some power behind his hands, good jiu-jitsu, zero wrestling defense. Very unreliable, never know when he's going to bring it, when he's not, especially at this point in his career. But, you know, he looks really good when he's doing what he does best, and that's just piecing you up at range, staying busy, and then, you know, threatening submissions on the ground if it goes there. But Mike Malott, super well-rounded guy, Canadian fighter. I would say just, you know, solid striking, powerful, kickboxes pretty comfortably too. Definitely has kicks in his arsenal. Has takedowns, has the grappling, averages about 2 takedowns a fight. 2 knockouts and 3 submissions in his 7 UFC fights, coming off a submission win over Charlie Radke. And Kevin Holland got dropped by Daniel Rodriguez, ultimately lost by decision. You really never know what you're going to get out of that guy. So, I mean, in my personal opinion, I think betting on Kevin Holland is completely off the table. Malott seems to be improving with every fight. Was super calm and collected against El Buffalo. Charlie Radke basically just let him come to him. And he's an insanely talented counter striker, which I think is going to come into play here against Kevin, who absolutely rushes in flurries. And, you know, Mike Malott has super high fight IQ. He said in an interview after the fight that that's exactly what he was trying to do against Radke because he knew he was going to come out so hot. And I think it's kind of going to look the same here. Seems like a bad matchup. Malott is insanely good. Another guy with who's just super technical. He was the Team Alpha Male striking coach for a long time for good reason. And Kevin's chin isn't holding up as much anymore either. So I think I'm going to go with the Mike Malott side.
Yeah, I mean, this fight's definitely going to be a pass for me. I think that's the case in any fight that Kevin Holland is a part of now. Just because I feel like if I took Mike in this one, Kevin Holland would put on a performance for the ages and be like locked in and look like himself. And then you'd see a situation where you'd put your money on Kevin Holland and he would look lethargic out there and not really interested in really pushing the pace and having a strong game plan in this one. A decent clash of styles in this one. Mike, obviously, more of a strong wrestler and grappler. Kevin Holland, his BJJ can hang a little bit, especially at this division. As he goes up in divisions, it's been harder for him to keep fights off the map, but I expect him to be somewhat competent in that area. And then Malott can also strike as well, not as well as Kevin Holland, but is capable of not just looking foolish in a fight that's standing up for most of it. If I had to pick, I'd probably take Mike just because I feel like you can count on his performances a tad more, and you feel better about the kind of median level of effort that he's going to put through. So I just can't back a Kevin Holland side and see the potential disaster that you're accustomed to seeing go down. So if I take anything on this, it'll be the Mike side.
Yeah, screw it. I'll take the chance on Kevin Holland. Let's see if Big Mouth can get it done for us one time here.
Hell yeah.
My ultimate prediction for this fight is it will be the fight of the night. I think these two will give us an absolute bang.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a fun one.
All right, on to the next one. Rainier DeRitter versus Brendan Allen. We've made it to the head of the card. What should we be expecting here?
Dude, I also think this fight's going to be a banger as far as like excitement goes. Like there should be some fireworks here, but this was obviously supposed to be, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Rainier DeRitter versus Fluffy. Fluffy unfortunately had to pull out due to injury, but luckily Brendan Allen stepped in on short notice, which is interesting because these guys train together very frequently. They're at the same gym. RDR was obviously the one being trained for this fight first, so Brendan Allen basically vacated the gym temporarily, training elsewhere now. But Renier, coming out of ONE FC, one of the few guys we've seen recently come from one of these non-UFC promotions, like after a storied career at that promotion, and then make a big splash in the UFC. Renier is just huge for this division. 2-division champ at ONE FC, coming off the Robert Whitaker win, where he was just far too big for him. Deadly in the clinch, some of the sharpest knees out there. Terrible striking, I would say, like really, really not technical or good, but incredible BJJ, obviously. The takedowns are good. And yeah, he basically just bullied Robert Whitaker. He has insane cardio, plenty for 5 rounds. He did get dropped and then just recovered pretty easily. He's super tough. He showed that he has a chin, especially against a guy like Robert Whitaker, which I think should matter here against a relatively powerful guy in Brendan Allen, who has developed his striking over the course of his career, came in as mostly a grappler, added in the striking. He still sometimes has a hard time putting the striking and the grappling together, but when he does, he looks like a menace, or he can look like a menace. And he's a very, very solid grappler, obviously a BJJ black belt. Good kicks, solid takedowns. I'd say maybe a little bit more well-rounded than DeRitter, despite being a little bit worse in the grappling. I think he's probably decidedly a better striker than Renier is. RDR, I think, deserves that Hamzat title shot. Like, his size, again, should just be a pretty big problem here for Brendan Allen. He has so much cardio, too. And I think once this fight gets out of the first round, like, Renier should probably just expose Brendan Allen, probably win by finish. But I do think Brendan Allen is going to be scary in the first round before, like, those initial takedowns happen, just because he is powerful and he is the better striker than Renier. That Renier, he might look a little bit sus. Like, if you have money on Renier ahead of that fight, you might be like, oh shit, in the first round. So I think I might try to play like a live bet or something on DeRitter once he gets hit a few times in that first round. But ultimately, I do think he wins it by finish.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that. I think RDR could get a finish standing or on the ground. It's kind of an interesting scenario because Brendan Allen is probably the better actual wrestler, but I would say RDR is more competent on the ground. So you might see situations where Brendan Allen dominates round 1 and you could get a live bet on RDR, like you were saying, just because I think Brendan Allen's a better pure minute winner on the ground. Like, he's going to be able to control the pace on the mat a little bit better. But RDR is like one slip up away from putting you in a crazy position that ends in a sub pretty instantly. And he's also capable of standing and banging and winning a fight that way as well. So I'm going to take RDR just for the versatility and the variety of ways to win. You could probably I would feel decent about an RDR by finish line. And then because I feel like if it goes to decision, it might be a sign of how the fight went down, and he just wasn't able to shoot any crazy takedowns, and Allen controlled the pace of it and stuff. So if it goes decision, I would feel decent about the Brennan Allen side there. So maybe you hedge that way and take an RDR finish and a Brennan Allen decision or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just going to go with RDR by sub here. I don't know, like basically short notice for Brendan Allen, extremely talented, but ultimately I do think Ritter is ready to take that next step and to transcend.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. With that said, subscribe if you haven't already. That was another quick one for us. So appreciate you all. Subscribe. Yeah, I already said subscribe if you haven't already. So there's another repeat of the record. So until next time, appreciate you all. Hope you have a great day. Peace out.
Peace out.